No, I just like to dive right into it. So if you could just, to kind of start your background and how you got to where you are, that would be great, man.
Yeah, let me try to Yeah, I mean, my my background's a little different than most people in college sports. I didn't go to college till I was 21. I worked at Walt Disney World in Orlando. I'm from Orlando, and when I was almost 22, I finally applied to college. I went to community college at Valencia, which is Orlando, and then transferred to Florida. So I went to Florida for undergrad. Majored in business economics. Um, from there, I went to law school at GW in Washington D.C. and I hated law school. I hated being an attorney. So I got out of it pretty quickly. I got lucky. I mean, I got my job in college sports from a Twitter DM. It's kind of like you messaging me like, "Hey, it was I it was October 5th, 2021, and this company kind of went public, if you will, socially." And I remember, oh, that's interesting. It was an NIL company in October of 21, which like is only a few months in. And I followed them, and I followed someone on their team. And I said, hey, like, would love to be a part of what you're doing. Had a few interviews and was hired within 30 days. So I DM'd them, and 30 days later they hired me, which is kind of crazy. So that was at Blueprint Sports. They were one of the first companies to kind of scale NIL collectives. And yeah, worked there for 9 months, helped them get to 7 or 8 collectives, and I left right before they launched Penn State. We worked with Gonzaga, Arizona, UNLV, Nevada, a little bit with Tennessee baseball. So it was a really good learning experience, a really good experience. Um, my first time ever working for a startup, and it was humbling. I was working remote in San Diego, and then I moved to Tucson to help with Arizona. I was in meetings with Jed Fish, which is kind of cool. So yeah, just all that from my Twitter DM. But it was one of those things where I knew the industry. So like I was up to date. Like when he asked me like, oh, what are my thoughts? I like sent him like 3 or 5 pages of my thoughts on NIL and where this is gonna go. And um I still have that email. I'm sure if I went back, I would wonder how much is right and wrong. But and my recommendations for like I built out like a business plan for what I think they should do. I gave it all away for free. Luckily, they hired me. So, and then after that, I left there. I did this like crazy road trip to the most college football games in one season, all out of my van, Betty White, a 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan. Went to 77 games, all on the road.
Oh,
Um, so I went from like selling universities to traveling to universities, which is kind of cool. And then, before that road trip, I applied for this job at Florida, and I hadn't heard back. So I said, if I don't hear back by, you know, Monday, week 0, I'm gonna keep doing this road trip. I soft outline of I think 62 or 63 games, and I ended up going to 77. So, yeah, it was an incredible time. But 2 months into it, I got a call. Hey, are you still interested in this position? I said, yeah, and I interviewed, and I announced I was coming back home to Florida on the night of the national championship when Georgia beat TCU, which is crazy to say, to go back to back. So that was really frustrating, but also exciting, exhausting. 77 games in 135 days, basically living out of a van. I think I spent 100 nights in my van.
shoot.
Yeah, so it was a wild time, and then I started here. So I started January 23rd of 2023. So I don't know when this is dropping, but that's a week next Friday.
Yeah.
I start on a Monday, but the timing right. But yeah, been here ever since, and been working with our teams and coaches and athletes and local businesses, and it's been a blast. Last year, I was voted NIL Director of the Year by NIL Store, which is humbling. Because I just try to do the best work I can for my athletes. So, but yeah, that's kind of a very long, not the elevator pitch story, but hopefully that kind of gives an idea of you don't have to be in college sports to get in college sports.
Yeah, no, definitely want to go back to that band's story. Probably towards the end because that just sounds awesome. I mean, 77 games is incredible in one season. Um, I guess taking it back all the way to law school, I was talking to my friend last night, he was in law school, actually, funny enough, and he was just like, "Yeah, let me know what he says about it because 'cause it's been kind of a grind." Like, he's in his 2nd semester now because he just
Yeah,
started in the fall, but he was like, "If you could, just let me know kind of what he thought of it," and it's been kinda kicking my ass, and so that's what he was
yeah.
kinda telling me, and I just kinda wanted to get your opinion on that real quick.
Well, where is he going to school at?
He's in California. He's at UC Irvine, I think.
I mean, that's a good school, and I think it's one of
Yeah.
those things where, they have the saying, they scare you to death, they work you to death, they bore you to death, and, that's 1L, 2L, 3L. So he's in the scare you to death a year, and he's already halfway through. And I learned actually this week that, so when I was in law school, you started interviewing for your summer job for your 2nd year and after your 1st year summer, but now they pushed that up to, like, she's starting to interview right now for next summer,
Yeah, he is. He is.
which is crazy, and it means even more so the thesis of, like, your 1st semester grades really can set the tone on your entire legal career. But that's behind him now, so whether he did well or whether he did poorly, now it's just about pressing the reset button. There'll be another OCI probably in the fall after the summer, and if he can get his grades up, like the big firms care about that. At the end of the day, it's just about those numbers. I couldn't imagine doing law school now with Chat GPT and Grok and like. I do think that there's an opportunity there to have those AIs like make me hypotheticals so that I can do like practice tests. I think that's really valuable. Um, but besides that, I mean, if everyone's using that as a tool, like how is it going to differentiate on those curves? Because that's what it matters about. I wish him the best. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. I wouldn't want to redo law school ever. But I have a lot of friends in this hallway that went to law school that aren't attorneys. I have a lot of friends that are attorneys that don't want to be attorneys, and some of that love it. So like, hopefully, he'll just find his spot, and whether you're pursuing law or college sports, like, I always say like intern to learn what you don't want to do. And you're never too young to pivot. I mean, I didn't go to college till I was 21, then I pivoted. I didn't like law school, so I pivoted. I'd like just I think that there's this like fallacy, the sunk cost fallacy, like, oh, I went to law school, I have all the student debt. Like, if you're going to be miserable for the next 30 years paying it off, like, just get out, find something you love, and the money will come. That's what I did. I mean, I left my job as an attorney, and I took a huge pay cut to work at a startup, like a huge pay cut.
Yeah.
And now I'm probably made whole now. I don't know if I stayed as an attorney, I'd probably be making more money, but I'm happy. I make good money, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'll definitely clip this and kinda send that to him because I think he'd love to hear that and love to hear the advice, and, kinda yeah, you said you hated it, didn't really like it. What was the transition like? You said going to that startup, as you know, like, you're gonna be losing out on a lot of money, and kind of that path that's there for you for law school, and then you're completely going to 180 to sports. What was that decision process like, and how'd that
Yeah.
go about?
I mean, it was probably not the best decision, but I didn't have healthcare and all that stuff, so I was a 1099. But no, I mean, that's the thing. I always say bet on yourself and then double down, right? Like if you're gonna do something, like you don't got to go all in, but you really need to put in the work, and that's what I did for that. So I was working 70, 80 hours a week on flat weekly pay or whatever, monthly pay, whatever it was. And it worked out, and it was one of those things too where you're in a role now. There's nothing more valuable when you're younger than sales. And it sounds like a crappy opportunity, but you get so many reps, and so the muscles that you make and the people that you connect with. I would not be where I am now without my sales opportunities with Blueprint, like networking, reaching out. I was on Zoom calls with athletic directors all over the country and donors and hearing from people that the rooms that I'm not normally in. And that's an NIL too. Like I always say, the most underrated part of NIL is the ability for the athletes to be in rooms they haven't been in before. You know,
Yeah.
meeting business owners, meeting donors and alumni, like connecting on a different level and building, lifelong opportunities. And also, that next time you need seed funding or that next time whatever, like, oh, I was in a room with the owner of 5 KFCs in Gainesville or whatever, like, those are the people that are gonna, invest in you long term. So, I think that that's something that any person that's actually listening to this and trying to figure out where they are in the college space, like, if you can do an outside sales role or where you're selling to universities or selling like, you're a lot of people are gonna give you feedback for free and make your pitch better. Like I don't know how many companies I probably helped them with their raises and hey, like this is how you're gonna get to a yes and scale. And I enjoy that. Like I enjoy helping. I help good people. I always say like whoever holds their breath longest wins, and sales that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, even now in this role, obviously I'm getting those reps and kind of in the mud in the thick of it right now, but, it's already cool to see just been here 4 months and people already reaching out to me like, "Hey, can you get me in contact with so and so or what news about this stuff?" And it's kinda cool to see that transition of, like, you would never think to be in those opportunities to now people are like, "Oh, you're in there with them and you're in those rooms too," and it's just a cool kind of transition.
Yeah, and I think it's um, not every conversation has to be a sale, right? Like if um, give, and then they'll want to root for you. They'll want to help you, and they'll want to give back to you. I think that I mean that's half life is tell people where you want to go, and they'll help you get there. And with that is like just go into every situation, and if you for me and a lot of people in my roles, it's how do you measure your impact? And for there's not a lot of depending on what role you're in, like there may not be a lot of KPIs, key performance indicators. It could be like, hey, like I grinded all day. I responded to every coach. I helped every outlet I could. And if that's a win for you, and you can sleep well at night, you got to be able to do that. Like I think that's it's hard, but it's everyone has to level set sometimes.
Yeah. Talk about those, hardships with the startup, like, just reaching out to universities and how did that all kind of lay out?
Yeah, I mean, October, November, December 2022 or 2021, early 2022, NIL was like no interest literally. No one
Yeah.
was interested in it, right? So like and especially like raising money from donors to pay players, like there's a lot of schools out there that, you know, maybe are kind of on the Ivy League mindset of like, we're too good for that, or not to say like that's the right or wrong answer, but hey, like we're not going to go shake down our donors, or hey, like we're not going to do XYZ. Also, like there's some, the nonprofit side, like that whole thing, and there's ways to do it where I said from the beginning the best NIL collective is a media company, the ESPN of their hometown. So the ESPN of Lawrence, the
Yeah.
ESPN of Gainesville, where like you create, it's a creator economy. And if you can do a Patreon type thing where there's a paywall and you use that money to pay the players to come on podcasts, like that's what everyone's doing now anyway. And this, I was
Yeah.
trying to do that 3 years or 4 years ago. I think it's one of those things where there are teams that are ahead now with that. And going back to working as a startup, if you believe in the product, you're gonna be at your computer till you fall asleep. The moment uh, you don't is when you probably need to get out, and that's fine. Like I'd also say, if you're gonna be in a startup, especially if you're an early employee, like try to get equity in the company because your sweat equity is more valuable than a paycheck. Because especially if it's a tech company and you can 10x it, like that the long tail of that could set you up really well. But I get a lot of pitches from founders and early people that like sometimes I don't even think that they really love what they're selling, and you can kind of see it. Um, there's a whole jockey and horse thing. Like you want to put yourself with the right jockey because they're going to keep getting them reps up. And with there's a lot of startups right now in the space. Youth sports is like the biggest like land grab right now in the money markets. Everyone's buying courts and investing in whatever. So it'll be interesting to see like if this is a bubble of investment, but it's fun to be just able to kind of track it.
Yeah. You mentioned, yeah, the youth. I think it's all I think a lot of people are going all in on the youth. I mean, you see, like, kids with, like, highlight tapes and you said, like, mentioning, like, buying courts or renting out courts and stuff like that. But kinda transitioning to role now, I think I read in your first 2 months, you overall was, like, $75,000 in NIL deals, and is that correct?
I think we I did something last year. and I pitched it, and we were able to activate it within like 72 hours, and now it's just generating probably $100,000 a year automatically,
Yeah.
and it should only grow, and that's something where it's like, you know, it could be used for above the cap money if they use it the right way, and that will move the needle. And it was something that I try to do when I first got here, but there was, every the, every 6 months the compliance laws change and everything. So, but when you have things that you truly believe in, you got to bring them up again, right? And that was something that we were able to execute, and it was one of those things where we went back and forth on what the number was and on like, but yeah, and I actually I probably should go and see how our second year is going to do here to update those numbers. But that's a pretty cool one. I definitely will keep my hat on that one.
Yeah. How do you maintain that success? Like you mentioned it's just only gonna go up or for whatever it is, but like how are you maintaining kind of just I mean, you seem like an innovator and in my eyes, you bring like the good ideas and they seem to be working and seem to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I need to fail as many times as possible. And what that means is like, yeah, I, I I'm out there, I just try. I think there's a levels of caring, and like I'm not a 9 to 5 guy, and I try to, actually last night I couldn't sleep for like 4 hours because I was just thinking about things that we could do better. And that's not like a brag or anything. I actually like sleep. I have an oral ring. I used to have an oral ring and a whoop ring. I'm like a psychopath. I don't wear my watch to sleep though. But no, it's there's ways to do things the old way, and then there's this not gray area, but there's this opportunity area now to try things. And, I remember a year and a half ago, I was at a booster club meeting, and I almost got cursed out for saying we're gonna have field logos next year, probably. They couldn't believe it, and I was like, "Well, NFL has, field logos." So it's just a lot of old money and a lot of old mindsets. I think that at the end of the day, we're moving, um not as fast as we can. There's a lot of things that we need to figure out, collective bargaining. Does football spin off? Are Olympic sports going to be still used? I mean, the great, our, the UF, the United States, one of our most underrated exports to the world is Olympic training grounds. We're the only country that has college sports where, in the last Summer Olympics, we had like 42 Olympians. They weren't all current athletes, but they were, graduates of Florida or former athletes. And it's like, if we were a medal count country, we would have been 11th, just the University of Florida, right?
Oh. Oh.
So it's one of those things where, you know, football's building the buildings. They always say football builds the buildings, basketball keeps the lights on, but football is keeping all those other sports going. Um, and is there hey, like, I think New Mexico State and New Mexico tried to do some bill to, you know, keep women's sports at their schools. Are there going to be less sports going forward? That's a whole nother area that I don't have a pulse on. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist. I mean, I really enjoy. I didn't know anything about lacrosse, but we have a really good lacrosse team here. We've gone back to
Yeah.
back Final Fours, and it would stink to lose those opportunities if going forward they have to be just all club sports.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely a big topic of discussion nowadays. And yeah, speaking of your Olympic teams, I went to high school with one of gymnastics on the Florida team, Leanne Wong.
Oh,
She
yeah? No, yeah,
said,
because she's from Kansas. Yeah,
yeah,
she
yeah,
just
went to
texted
this
me, I wasn't able to
really.
go. She has 2 houses in Gainesville, and
Oh,
she
nice.
she, I couldn't go to her, uh, housewarming party, but she just literally today, she texted me saying they're gonna have a second housewarming party. That's so funny. There's a picture, a selfie. You probably can't see it, but a
I can
selfie
see it.
with an alumni that was taken last week. She's great. I mean, she's a star, and yeah, she's a big Chiefs fan.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up like same. We're never close or anything, but we went to like the same elementary and middle school. And yeah, every day on the dot at like 11 a.m. she'd leave to go practice or go to gymnastics and do all that training and
Yeah,
stuff, and
she's
honestly
a machine.
yeah, honestly, just an insane schedule because it would be, like, right on the dot, we'd all be like, "Yep, she's going to gymnastics every day." Like, that's just insane that at that young too, to kind of have that passion and drive and everything, but yeah, it's a cool little relationship right there.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. I mean, I mean, she's got a freaking I mean, she's probably the only athlete I know that has her own seltzer. Like, that's her right there on a
Well,
seltzer.
let's go.
Yeah, so
I
shout
didn't
out
know
to
that at
Leanne.
all.
Yeah, she's one of those athletes that, she's such a down to earth person that it challenges me to be better. Because like, I'm like, if she can be pre-med, she sold 10,000 hair bows, 1,000 leotards. She started a nonprofit. She's a landlord. She has 2 houses in Gainesville. She can do all that and, be an alternate for the Olympics. I can probably lose 10 pounds, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and so like, that's just super humbling. And that's one of the reasons, like, yeah, I enjoy my job so much is just being able to interact with just, high level, high achieving people.
Yeah, for sure. I bet that's just like satisfaction of just seeing the success that they have, and yeah, her accomplishments, and I'm sure whole lot more athletes there at Florida have the same accomplishments, if not more. But kind of going into those deals and like the seltzer, I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but kind of walk us through an NIL deal, like from your scope and your lens of helping these student athletes kind of profit off their and name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of those things where, we have, around 480 athletes right now or so. And, I always tell them like, hey, I can only help you if you come to me because I can't like text out 500 athletes a day. Like, that's just
Yeah.
not a thing. Uh, if there's companies that you already work with, already use, let's try to organically reach out to them and be strategic around, we find someone on LinkedIn. And in 2025, 2026 now, like, people tell you where they work. So it's not hard to find someone to reach out to. If you want a deal with, Yeti, uh, right? Like, let's go find the marketing team at Yeti. And actually, Leanne Long, was able to broker like a deal for the entire gymnastics
No
team
way. No way.
for Yeti. So like, and she got me a custom set. So there's more. And I say, hey, there's more power in you reaching out sometimes than me. I mean, you have, Leanne has 100 something thousand, but like, if you're an athlete that has 12,000 followers on Instagram and you DM a company, I'd love to work with you. They're going to be intrigued, right? First of all, what does that mean? Do I have to pay you? And two, like, sometimes athletes, we have athletes here that have more followers than the Leanne that go to a local car wash place and post on their story. Shout out to Gallo Car Wash, um, just to get a free car wash, right? And that's like, you, you never know what is valuable to an athlete, and what that post on social media for that car wash, like, that's a huge deal. Normally, that would cost, probably a few hundred, if not $1,000 on a story post from a, borderline Olympian, right? So, like, um, it never hurts to ask. I was talking to a student today who, um, I was working with one of our teams, and he's helping with like scouting and stuff, and he said, hey, like, sometimes, um, you just got to ask what these athletes want, like, on the other side of the coin, right? And I always say it's kind of like you have to do the scalper method. Like, when you go to a game or a concert, and you go up to a scalper, like, and the first thing they ask you is how much are you willing to spend. They don't ask you like what kind of tickets you want, right? So, and going back to that sales thing, those are the best salespeople in the world are ticket scalpers. So like if you can take 2 or 3 notes from them, you may be a better seller. Obviously you're in ticket sales, so you probably shouldn't, appreciate that. But in reality, like,
Yeah.
and honestly, now it's harder. Like, when I grew up, like, I used to enjoy the game of ticket sale. One of my friends from second grade is a professional ticket scalper in Orlando. Like, he's at every event. Yeah. And it's just like a whole different level of sales. Uh, but going back to your question, I would say, it's one of those things where it's a case by case basis. There's a lot of opportunities right now with finding easy deals through marketplaces. Basically, like, there's these companies that you sign up and they say, hey, to, Coca-Cola, we have 10,000 athletes on our platform that are looking for deals. Would you want to do a deal with them? They say, sure. Well, give you $50,000 to create a campaign, and then they just reach out to athletes that way. That's a super easy way to get involved. And there's probably 4 or 5 of those companies doing it at a high level right now. Um, but, on a one-on-one level, I kinda just try to like, say, "Hey, like, what do you define yourself as? What are your values? And let's go crazy, reach out to these companies."
What's the campaign look like? Is it just one kind of general commercial, or is it multiple things, or what's the campaign like if you're, like
Yeah,
you
I mean,
said,
it
reaching out?
depends. I always say, like, it's better for you to be doing stuff that's not sponsored, um, to get a sponsor. What does that mean? It's like if you're doing a weekly Instagram reel, a day in the life or like what I eat, and you do 10 of those and you're able to go to a company and say, "Hey, I'm doing this series. Every video averages 50,000 views. I may only have 7,000 followers, but every one of my videos, and that's just on Instagram reels. On TikTok, they're doing 10,000, they're doing another 100,000. Um, you go to them and say, "Hey, like, would you want to be a sponsor of the next video or like a product placement, right?" And when you can come with ammunition, I have a series. It gets 150,000 views every time I post. Dollars follow eyes. That's what I say. Dollars follow eyes. So like if you're able to go sell that, like that's the easiest way. Cause it's hard to sell a concept. It's hard to sell an idea, but it's easy to sell I'm doing it. And this goes back to anyone that's looking for any job. It's easier to say, it's easier to say I'm doing something than I'm interested in something. So when I was, in law school, one of my cohorts or another law student was an NFL player for 9 years. And I was just his friend. And my 3L year, he's like, "You'd be a great agent." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I just wanted to be your friend." He's like, "Well, I'll connect you with my agent." So I interviewed with this agent. He goes, "Why didn't you leverage this friendship a year ago? I would have given you an internship." And I was like, "Your client thinks I'd be a great agent. I feel like that's good enough." And I didn't even
Yeah.
have to emails. But at the same time, it's like one of those things where you, I was interested in sports, but I wasn't doing it right. So find a way to do it right. I had a mentee who got an opportunity with Wasserman, and I was like, "All right, now you can no longer say you're interested. You have to go do it." And once he got the job, and he went out and was like their best intern they've ever had. And he's got an offer, and he should be starting here soon, and he can choose New York or California. But like, that's the thing. Find a way to do it, and then it's time to go crazy, right? And like from there, who knows? And if you're able to go to bed, say, "Hey, I did everything I could," then it's not on you. Like, control your controllables and go from there. Like, if you're in a role like ticket sales or, some roles like compliance, like you're not really trying to sell stuff, right? Like there's other areas where, if you're in creative, I think, you do the Mr. Beast model of make your videos 1% better every time. Make your thumbnails 1% better every time, right? And then find ways to have like KPIs. Hey, like our goal is to grow this account 10% over the semester and also have XYZ views across, like make your own personal goals.
Yeah, that's something I definitely need to work on with this, just in general, the conversations. But I just try to keep it as authentic as possible and kind of just let it free flow. But loved how the question turned into advice. I think that's kind of a special way to kind of communicate that stuff, and it's not just about like a right or wrong answer, but then it's turning it into advice and helping others. So, with NIL, and it changing every day, like how are these tracked? How are these like campaigns tracked? Or because I'd assume everything has to be on pen and paper too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I tell my athletes like, try to get something in writing because there's a lot of bad actors out there. But if you're doing a deal with a real company, that maybe the deal's offered through Instagram or whatever. I mean, first, make sure it's a real account. I've had a lot of athletes
Mhm.
send me these emails, and it's like, "Hey, dudes, want to work with you," and it's like Johnny Tsunami 69427
Yeah,
at gmail.com is emailing you, right? Or it's like, or it's, I mean, it's hey dudes and hey dudes influencers at gmail.com. And I'm like, that's not a real thing. It's someone from Hey Dude. It would be that Hey Dude at Hey Dude. Maybe Hey at Hey Dude or something, right? So that makes,
yeah.
but like just look, or, you can change like what it looks like on the from and to. So there's a lot of scammers out there, and I've compared where we are in the NIL space the last 3 or 4 years to where we were 15 years ago with the YouTube creator economy, where you had these young kids like Ryan's Toy Review or whatever being creating content, and these like management companies would come and say, "Yeah, we'll work with you," da, da, da," and like these kids would sign away their whole YouTube channel, right? And so for me, just trying to protect the athletes, but going back to your question about, how these deals get done and all that, like, and what a campaign looks like. You could say, "Hey, Ryan, you're doing great work. You're, 5-star athlete. You may have a following because you're an athlete, not because you're a creator. So you may have 4 posts on your Instagram, but 400,000 followers. So it's like, all right, well, like, how can we make this organic to you, but get the ROI we want, the return on investment? Right. So maybe it's, hey, we'll pay you $5,000 a month for 1 post on Instagram and like 2 story posts for 4 months. So it really is like, all right, well, 4 months, that means I have to double the posts on my Instagram. And you have to make a decision. Are you going to be posting on your Instagram other stuff that's non-sponsored, or are you just going to sell out your next 4 posts?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a lot of that. It's like, hey, like, could I do, I have athletes that like they strictly use TikTok as their sponsorship uh bundle. Like, hey, I'll do 10 TikToks. I don't care. I'm like, okay, well, so then it's like, all right, well, do we think we'll hit the lottery and when we'll hit like 100,000 people, right? So it's a combination of negotiation, comfortability. We have it's like at the end of the day, does the brand align with what you want and what you stand for? Are you going to go out and promote a CBD brand and you don't even do CBD? Are you going to take a creatine gummy, and you don't even take creatine, right? Like those things like that. It's like, have you ever even tried a Celsius and you're going to drink one, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you don't want to sell out. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of easy money in the world, but the easiest things are easy come, easy go. And I try to say, hey, like, if a company wants to work with you, see if you can make it a longer term deal, right? I think there's more value in a year deal worth $8,000 than a 1 post deal worth $4,000. Because you can continue to say, hey, like, I'm working with this company, and you can try to, and if you do well and overachieve, gives them some free stuff, free promotion, they're going to want to double back with
Mhm.
you as well.
Yeah, it's cool to see the balance of, like, the athlete actually with their brand identity and then them implementing sponsorships and story posts and stuff like that. It's cool to see that they kinda have to I mean, they do have to decide if they do wanna do that, like, balance their just normal posts of like, an Instagram post of, like, a game day or something like that, and then they actually have to do their sponsorships and all their stories like that too, so it's cool to see that balance.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things like, now that NIL, now it's legal, it doesn't mean you have to do it, right? 99.999% of people are consumers of content, not creators, right? The phone is the great equalizer, but just because you can be a creator doesn't mean you want to do it, right? And a lot of these athletes are making so much money that they don't really care. And they're too cool to post on Instagram, or they're too cool to, you know, do a silly TikTok dance. And that's fine. That's your prerogative. Are you leaving money on the table? Maybe, but are you not selling out? Yeah, or like you're doing something that you wouldn't normally do, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and how does that work for like, real quick, just how does that work when they transfer? Like, if it's a local, let's say it's a local mom and pop they're kind of partnering with in Gainesville, and then they transfer away, or if, like, an incoming transfer comes in and now they're kinda having to battle the where they were doing NIL deals. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we're, a few years into this now where in a college town, every local business has probably been shaken down in some way or another by either someone that's the school, an
Yeah.
agent. That car wash I mentioned earlier, there was an agent that reached out and said, "Hey, we'd like to work with you," but it's $10,000, and it was for like an athlete that didn't really get much playing time, and you're like, "No, I'm good." Like, and then the athlete was in the portal like 3 days later. So like a little bit is, you know, be smart as a business. It's a marketing expense. At the end of the day, are you using regular influencers? Do you even have an Instagram, right? Like, what's the goals of this? With restaurants, it's foot traffic. So is the athlete coming to hang out at your restaurant instead of posting, "Oh, look at this burger," right?
Yeah.
So that's I try to consult and give these businesses and these owners of mom and pop place like, hey, like, let's be real here. Especially in the restaurant business, the margins on food are so low, right? A lot of places like the car wash thing, he gives free car washes, not a big deal. But I mean, he's giving away $30,000 in free car washes, right? So that's it does, and he can't really measure the ROI of that. Does he have 5 new people who go to his car wash instead of the other one? Maybe. But when you're charging, $25 a month for a car wash, how many car washes do you have to do to get that money back, right? A lot.
Mhm.
So I think it's a little bit of, if you're a business owner, you have to think like a business, but also if you have a contract with an athlete that's, outside of a like between a portal season, you just probably have to kind of figure out like the payment structure, be strategic, and say, hey, like, if you're not going to fulfill in these last deliverables, we'll just end the deal here, and you'll just take whatever and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's like any kind of employee. I mean, they're
Yeah.
an ambassador for the program, right?
Yeah, so it's just kinda cut ties if they do,
Yeah.
transfer away. Yeah, interesting. Um, I think throughout this, I've just been kind of noticing you're definitely for the athlete and for the student, and I think that's just kind of what it's all about for as a director and everything like that. So just to kind of round it out here, would love to talk more about yourself and like what motivates you to continue to innovate for NIL and for these student athletes, and like obviously you could make the argument that it's gone a little overboard with like some deals, and you're seeing players transfer for like $6 million or just multi-millions of dollars.
Yeah.
How do you kind of stay motivated to like fight for the student athlete and like, hey, this is a good thing for them when there's a lot of outside chatter of negativity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. Like I said earlier, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and this is for most of these athletes, this could honestly be the highest earning years of their lives, right? And you can't blame the athletes for everything going on because they don't even have a voice at the table. The football coaches voted to extend the red shirt from 4 games to 9 games,
So,
and right? Like, that's cool. Is that
mhm,
for athletes? Sure. Is it not? But like, and now every other year we're extending the playoffs, and these athletes are like, I signed up to play 14 games and now I'm playing 16 games. Right. So a lot of this stuff is like, hey, if I'm playing 2 more games, I'm gonna go transfer and try to make more money. Right.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
NFL stands for not for long. So like if the NFL's for not for long and I'm not even gonna make a team, let me go maximize my earnings now. Like, you have a lot of these quarterbacks that, aren't going to be professional quarterbacks, or maybe be on the practice squad, but they're great college quarterbacks, right? Like, Tebow did not end up being a great NFL quarterback, but he was an all time, you know, college quarterback,
yeah.
right? And like,
Imagine NIL back in that day with like him
seriously.
and Manziel and all
Well, yeah,
them.
I mean, and we had Cam Newton.
Yeah,
We had Cam Newton on our bench, and he got kicked off the team for stealing a laptop. So, like, if you didn't do that, I mean, I don't think we would have had him because of the parity, and you aren't as deep as you were. But um, yeah, it's just insane. I mean, like, but going back to your question, how I stay positive, I'm blessed to be at my alma mater, which helps. That makes me care more, probably, kind of like you.
yeah,
Uh,
for
and
sure.
I think it's one of those things where I try to support all of our athletes across all of our sports, and there's athletes here that they're just grateful to be a Gator. They're not in a sport where there's donors cutting them checks, or donors, or like rev share dollars. They're just here to compete at a high level in the sport that they fell in love with as a kid, and that's something awesome. And then on the other side of the coin, I mean, our freshman quarterback that was in our recruiting class, 4 or 5 star, um, you know, he came up to me 2 days ago at orientation when I was talking, said, "Hi, I'm, Will Griffin. It's nice to meet you. I'm excited to be a Gator." And like, he's getting paid more than I am. So like, it's hard not to go to battle for someone that is, just genuinely here, and, can communicate at a high level, and I told them, I said, "You guys are professional athletes now. You make more than anyone in this building, right?"
Yeah.
So, like, it's one of those things. I try to give them a lot more awareness of like, hey, that trainer that's trying to get you back on the field, that tutor that is a student who's getting paid $12 an hour, like that's keeping you in class, like you're making more than they may make in their lives, right? Like in the next 3 or 4 years. So like, just try to be grateful and like, if they're saying something, just listen, man. It's just like it's not a big deal. Um, and there's people with PhDs in this room in this office that or maybe they're making 80K and you're making 800K, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
try to take that veil off.
Mhm.
It's a we're kind of it's time to grow up. That's what that, but not like in a negative way. It's like, hey, like someone was asking me earlier about like these the whole athletes signing deals and then trying to hop in the portal. I'm like, you're a grown adult now. If you sign a deal with a school with a company, like your integrity is on the line. One and two, you agreed to that deal. Is it your fault or your agent's fault that you didn't take a little more time and try to find the market? Maybe. Like in the NBA, you don't see LeBron sign a $70 million deal and then go sign a $77 million deal and leave the next day, right? So
Mhm.
just try to give them a little bit more perspective and be their friends. I mean, I don't have any brothers or sisters, so like all these athletes are like my siblings. I have
Yeah.
athletes that
That's cool.
hey, like I just want to get an interview or I want to work in this industry, right? I had an athlete, I set him up to work at in the medical field here in Gainesville, and another athlete, I got him an interview with Under Armour to design cleats, right? Like, so I for me, it's it's not 4 years, it's for life when you wear this logo. Obviously, if you're transferring every 10 year, every 5 or 6 months, that's tough, right? Like, and that's why I tell these athletes too. Like, where do you want to call home in 40 years? You see athletes in their fifth school, their sixth school, their seventh school. It's like you're a professional intern at that point, right? But you're maximizing your current money too, so you can't blame them. But if you've been at a school for 3 or 4 years and you have 1 year left of eligibility, like if you can get a graduate degree at another school and like go for it. Uh, but if you're moving for $10,000, it's going to cost you more than $10,000 to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, do you see like a bubble popping of for NIL, or like do you just see it fully just continuously going up with numbers going up and like kind of I don't
Yeah.
know, it feels like with definitely with like the transfer portal, it's just kind of hard with everything and kind of just that unlimited range and you never know who's contacting who or what's going on. But like do you see a bubble popping
I mean,
or
I
anything
I
like that?
I think before rev share, so before like last summer, the schools that were at the highest level were the ones with the biggest donors. And then everyone got money and the floor went up really. So like Kansas basketball, let's say they had an $8 million budget and and UCF had a $2 million budget, right? And sorry, I just realized that you guys lost to UCF.
Yeah, that was straight to the heart.
I just right when I said it, but like then last summer, all of a sudden the school can pay. So say they went from a $2 million budget from donors to now they're paying 5 million. So now they have a $7 million budget, and Kansas is like, well, we have $8 million. We'll do another five, and now they're at a $13 million budget. Sure, 13 and 7 are not comparable, but maybe UCF is like we're going to pay two players $3 million each, and Kansas is like we're going to pay one player $6 million and the other ones, and then that talent disparity can kind of even out, right? So going back to your bubble question, it's until there's kind of like a reeling in of this whole like donor side. I mean, Texas Tech obviously they have a donor who's just trying to break the system and also saves college sports at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's when I was working in Tucson, their top donor didn't even go to Michigan to Arizona. He went to Michigan State. And this was before nonprofit. He was just cutting checks. So rich people just going to cut checks, right? Like they may not care about the tax write-offs if they can feel like they're a part of, being the Jerry Jones of the the Red Raiders, right?
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
there's definitely
I think that
multiple
there
of
needs
those
to
as
be
well.
more, not guardrails, but just we need to have some enforcement. And
I
then
think that's what everyone's kind of
but then from there
thinking.
it's like, say, the NIL CSC came after Kansas and said, "Hey, like you're not eligible for, the tournament." Then the Big 12 is going to be like, "Hold on, what?"
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
like no one's incentives are aligned right now. So we just need some adults in the room to like say, "Hey, like what are we doing here?" And how can we, and maybe it's football, what are we doing here separate?
Yeah.
Basketball, what are we doing here separate? Men's and women's. And then it's like we go down and we say, how do we make this all work together? Because that we have coaches in some sports that make, maybe including bonuses, $500,000, but their sport loses $5 million,
Yeah.
right? And so like what does that look like going forward? Who knows? But I think we're slowly getting there.
Yeah.
I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, but I know the tunnel eventually has an end.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you need to be in the room when
Uh,
there's decision making to be
I
had.
would love to be a fly in the wall. If someone invites me in the room, um, I will talk. I also think that this is something too, like when you're in a room like that, uh, I think leadership should let the youngest person, not the youngest, the newest person in the room talk first. Start with the newest person, because and I think this is something that all leaders should do, is when you go into a room, be the last one to talk, because if you're the first one to talk, it intimidates everybody. But if you start with the newest person who may be scared to talk, but create a culture where you embrace every idea, that's where you're going to see a lot of change. All right, our kid that's been here for 3 months, what do you got? 7 months, what do you got? 1 year, what do you got? 10 years, what do you got? All right, I loved all those ideas. Here's what I think. I've been here for 4 years. And it's not like you're all wrong, but at least that kind of gives everyone a voice, and that shows everyone's rowing in the same direction. So we'll see. The NCAA is taking a lot of black eyes. It looked like they just got a win here this week for some kind of challenge. Maybe that's one for the Gipper. I'm excited. I'm in college sports because I love college sports. So I would be at the table if they'd be willing, and I don't know if I have all the answers, but I can. I told athletes at orientation, the thing I use Chat GPT for the most is to ask my blind spots. And I think that's one of the reasons that we need people that aren't normal people in those rooms, because they see things that no one else sees. I say, hey, like, 60 new athletes. I said, hey, like, I know you're going to use chat. I was like, I use Grok and chat. Like, but the one thing I always end with is, what are the 3 to 5 things that I'm not seeing here? What's the other side of what you're telling me? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important part of what we need to be doing. And I think it's the most underrated tool that chat can give you is the other side of the coin.
Yeah. I didn't even think about using chat like that for pretty much anything, but that's definitely a great perspective to have and something I will definitely be using now. Um, Obviously, yeah, I think just real quick, I think it seems like as an outside perspective, sometimes it just the common sense wins, and I don't think that happens sometimes, and it's a little frustrating for people on the outside, but hopefully, like you said, there is a light at the tunnel. Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later. Last question, I just kind of wanted to see what advice you would give to someone looking to get into the NIL side and like law school, obviously a big bonus and a big help for you for, I guess, kind of navigating, I guess, the typical laws or just stuff that you're following, like compliance and everything. But advice for someone that's looking to be in your role or just in NIL.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I said earlier about sales and life being sales, um, finding a way to communicate that you add value is at the end of the day what moves the needle. And what does that mean? If you can go to, perfect example, the company, the Blueprint, when I went to their website, when I was like, I looked at who was on their team, and I was like, none of you guys are millennials, right? Like,
Yeah.
now, like Gen Z, like find where the opportunity is that they don't see. Find the blind spots, right? And do some of the work for free, right? Like I wrote 5 pages of what I think you should do. Am I wrong? Maybe, but I went out and it's creating content, right? Like
Yeah.
doing the work for them in advance to say, hey, like I just did all this for free. Imagine if you make me a part of the team, I know more, I can give more thoughts, right? Like, so for me, it's like wherever you go, and then on your resume, you have to communicate that value that you added, not that you just worked at Kansas. I worked at Kansas and doubled this product or whatever. Like you got to show that tangible stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm a big person on doing the work, finding a way to say I'm not just interested in this, I'm doing it. And you're doing that right now with this content piece. Like, I think that's a very valuable thing. It's awesome. Interviews is the hottest, audio form right now. And video interviews are crushing it. Like, if you look, you know, Bill Simmons, The Ringer, they got bought out by
Yeah.
Spotify. Barstool's on Netflix now. So it's like, you're doing it right. So like, if you wanted to pivot into some kind of thing, like you're like, hey, like I got this little baby over here, right? So, there's value in that, and I see that, right? So, like, to end with that, I would say, yeah, do the work, find a way to do it, and like I said earlier, I didn't have a job in sports, and I got it from a Twitter DM, and I did it. I just gave the guy 5 pages of thoughts. Yeah,
No, that's awesome. That's great advice, and I appreciate that. Definitely gonna take that in, and yeah, this is kind of like my little baby. It's my little like side project and something I love doing, and this was amazing. I guess real quick, the 77 games. I'd just love to hear a little bit about this if you have the time.
yeah. Uh, in college and in law school, I was known as the road trip guy. Mind you, we always lost when I went to the away games. So
Yeah.
I had a joke where I was like banned from the road trips. But I would drive from like DC to Gainesville overnight. In 2017, I did USF at UCF on a Friday and then drove to the Iron Bowl on Saturday.
Hmm.
And and during COVID 2020, this is kind of when I got like the bug, if you will. I did
Yeah.
Gainesville to College Station overnight on a whim, and there was a hurricane going through Louisiana, which I did not know about. When I announced I was doing it, and when I did that trip, Florida State fans started just Venmoing me money. Yeah, so like my arch rival, they were like, "You're crazy! Like this is awesome though." Like it was like during fall of COVID, and there's like hurricane going through Louisiana. I'm driving, I'm live tweeting it, and it was just like just a cool. And that was when I was like, "Oh, this is something." And 2 years later, 2022, the timing it just worked out, so I just went for it.
You're
And
featured on ESPN, right? Or like
yeah,
just featured.
ESPN, SC Network. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't take this job. Maybe be doing some kind of content, but I'd be in a lot of debt because I took a lot of credit card debt out on that. But I was in Lawrence when uh, you guys beat Kansas State and I stormed the field. I think I was the first person on the field,
Let's go.
and I ran to the non-student section, no, the student section, no, non-student section goalpost closer to the what's the pond? Duck Pond? No,
Oh, Potter Lake.
Potter. Yeah, and it was surrounded by security. So we went to the other one, and then as we're walking over there, all the students are charging that one. And what's crazy was I dropped my phone in this mob, looked on the ground, found someone else's phone before I found my phone. So it was just chaos. And we went, yeah, through in Potter Lake.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. But yeah, I
We
mean,
my fraternity has one of the goalposts in our basement to this day from that day.
that's
They
awesome.
went and got it from the lake and then and then
That's so
brought it
cool.
back to our
That was
fraternity.
it was just a while. I mean, so that was awesome. I think that was the only field storm I had that year. I missed that same day. I think Notre Dame got stormed or something like that, or Notre Dame stormed the field. I don't remember what it was, but I think there was, and I was gonna go to Notre Dame, and I ended up there, so it all worked out. But yeah, I was living out of a van, Betty White. Well, I think I paid for, I had 77 games. I think I paid for like 13 to 16 tickets. So all the other ones, like schools will reach out to me. I never reached out to a school. They'd always reach out to me, or fans would reach out to me, and just super awesome time. I think I did like 6 or 7 oil changes. Oh, just wild, wild times.
That story's amazing, and, yeah, I remember hearing I think it was, like, a game day. Were you featured on was it a game college game day?
SEC
Or
Network did some stuff with me.
okay. Yeah, because I remember, like, this story, like, vividly actually remember hearing about this, and I was like, "Wow, I'm really having a
Yeah.
conversation with a guy that
I
that
know
was doing it."
the first, like, picture that went viral was it was a Thursday night game against Western Kentucky, and they did a screen grab of me, and it was, like, 40 games, one $5 parking ticket, the no context college football account, like, screen grabbed it and shared it, and then, 3-year Letterman, who was, like, a big f college football account, shared it, and he tweeted, like, "My biggest accomplishment is this guy already followed me on Twitter." So yeah, so
That's
like
awesome.
both of those, I mean, those both of those accounts have huge followings, and that was like just that kind of you probably saw me right around there.
Yeah, I think it was around there, but, um, crazy story, and, thank you for the all everything that you shared today and all the advice. I appreciate you hopping on this with just a guy DMing you on LinkedIn, but I appreciate you taking the chance and sitting down with me today, and yeah, I just appreciate it a lot, man.
No, my pleasure. It was fun, and keep me in the loop, and I'll try to skim some of the other episodes and see if I can learn
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, for sure, and if you're ever in Lawrence, obviously, if you're road tripping again, let me know, and we can
Yeah, I
get
got
some
to get back.
tickets for you.
I got to get back to for the fog.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. We have a game tonight versus Baylor, and, I mean, yeah, it's one of the best atmospheres in college sports.
Yeah, no,
I
for
would say
sure.
I would say the same to you about your guys' football as
Well,
well.
when I was a student here, Kansas basketball came to Florida, and that was the Joel Embiid and
Wiggins.
Wiggins year.
Mm,
So, and I think we won and went to the Final Four that year, and got smacked by UConn. I
yeah.
think we had 3
No.
losses that year, and 2 of them were to UConn, so
Yeah.
it was tough. But all right, well, I'll let you go, man. Congrats. Have a
Yeah.
good weekend.
Yeah,
And
you too.
let me know when this is live.
Yeah, for sure. I'll reach out to you, and, again, appreciate everything, Ben.
My pleasure, man. Be good.
Alright, you too.
Go wave some wheat.